Hi, and welcome back to the channel. What if the system designed to help the poor only works for people who never actually need it? What if the moment you lose your home, your job, your dignity, the same system quietly turns its back on you? This is not a theory. This is not an opinion as well. This is a true story about a man who decided to test the system by destroying his own comfort on purpose. And what he discovered was so uncomfortable that governments were forced to listen. Denmark is often described as one of the happiest countries on earth. Free healthcare, strong social security, a welfare system admired around the world. On paper, it looked perfect. But behind the statistics, people were still sleeping on streets. People were still being ignored. People were still falling through the cracks. And one man couldn't stop asking a dangerous question. If the system is so good, why are so many people being left behind? His name was Hans Christian Kofoed. He was educated, respected, employed. Hans worked as a social activist and deeply believed in human dignity. He wasn't against the system. He was part of it. But over time, something disturbed him. People came to him broken, not just poor, but exhausted, humiliated, defeated. They weren't lazy. They weren't irresponsible. They were tired of being treated like a problem instead of a human being. So Hans decided to do something no report or statistic could ever do. He decided to become one of them. Hans didn't announce his plan. He didn't ask for permission. He changed his clothes. He stopped using the money. He removed every visible sign of status. No ID, no safety net, no explanation. And then he stepped onto the streets, not as a researcher, not as a social worker, but as a man with nothing. What shocked him wasn't hunger. It was how fast he became invisible. People avoided his eyes. Some crossed the street. Some pretended not to see him. Some looked at him with suspicion as if poverty were contagious. When Hans tried to ask for help, the tone always changed. Not cruel, not violent, just cold. Fill out this form, come back tomorrow. You don't qualify. You're missing one document. Each sentence sounded polite, but every word pushed him further away. The welfare system had rules, strict rules. Miss one appointment, assistant delayed. Lose one paper, sport denied. Ask too many questions, labeled difficult. Hans realized something terrifying. The system didn't assume people needed help. It assumed people were lying. Instead of compassion, there was suspicion. Instead of trust, there was control. The process itself was exhausting, and that exhaustion broke people. Not everyone quits life because they're weak. Some quit because the system wears them down. One day, Hans stood in line for aid. People spoke over him. Decisions were made about him, but without him. He wasn't asked what he needed. He was told what he deserved. And in that moment, Hans understood something crucial. Poverty is not just the lack of money. It's the loss of voice, the loss of dignity, the loss of being seen. After weeks of living without comfort, without status, without a name anyone cared to remember, Hans didn't immediately stand up and announce the truth. First, he prepared. He wrote everything down, not emotions, facts, dates, locations, exact words spoken by officials, how long he waited, who turned him away, and most importantly, how often help was denied without explanation. He gathered proof not to shame individuals, but to expose a pattern. Then, quietly, he stepped back into his real identity. He returned to offices, the same buildings where he had once been ignored. But this time, he wore clean clothes, he spoke with confidence, he carried documents, and suddenly everything changed. Doors opened, conversations became polite, assistants appeared almost instantly. That contrast became the evidence. Hans didn't accuse anyone publicly at first. Instead, he shared his findings with journalists, social institutions, and policymakers. He told them one simple thing: I received more help in one day as a respected man than I did in weeks as a homeless one. When the story reached the media, the reaction was immediate and uncomfortable. Headlines questioned the welfare system. Public debates erupted. Officials were forced to explain why dignity seemed to depend on appearance. Authorities initially defended the process. They spoke of rules, of fairness, of procedures. But Hans' documentation made denial impossible. Because the issue wasn't one bad worker, it was repetition. The same obstacles, the same delays, the same silent rejection again and again. And people recognized something painful. What happened to Hans was happening every day to thousands of others who didn't have the power to reveal it. This wasn't a stunt. It wasn't activism for attention. It was proof. Proof that the system rewarded stability and punished vulnerability. Proof that compassion was often replaced by compliance. And proof that many people weren't failing the system was failing them. Hans didn't reveal the truth to tear the system down. He revealed it to rebuild it, starting with dignity. Hans didn't stop with criticism. He believed in solutions. So he founded Kofoeds Skole, a place built on one simple idea: before fixing people, restore their dignity. No judgment, no labels, just education, skills, sport, and respect. People who had been ignored for years finally felt human again. Kofoed's work influenced social thinking far beyond Denmark. His experiment proved something governments couldn't deny. A system can look perfect on paper and still fail the people who need it most. True help isn't just money, it's empathy, flexibility, human understanding. Hans once said something powerful: the poorest people are not those without money, but those without hope. He didn't pretend to be poor to shock the world. He did it to remind us that dignity should never be conditional. So the next time you walk past someone on the street, ask yourself, is it really them who failed the system, or the system that failed them? Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one. Please like, share, and subscribe.